Our guest today is the very kind, very generous, and very driven Amita Sharma. Amita is the co founder of Nourish Doc, a holistic wellness platform dedicated to empowering women through every stage of their hormonal transition, from PMS to perimenopause and beyond. She has pioneered a culturally sensitive, accessible, and innovative self care app designed to support women with evidence based, integrative wellness solutions tailored to their unique needs. She also contributes, very kindly, to podcasts on menopause, midlife, gender, and workplace wellness, discussing often stigmatized topics like intimate relationships, stress, and holistic wellness. Thank you so much for joining today. You've really taken on a very important and often little discussed set of topics. So thank you for doing that. But I wanted to take you back a little bit, if that was okay, and just understand a bit about your formative years. What was life like for you growing up, and
Yeah.
how does life then link to life today?
Thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate the work that you're doing. I just wanted to quickly say that. But the way I grew up and the work that I'm doing are so polar apart. Like it's like opposite. I grew up in India, and as you probably are aware, that these kind of topics, even today, are not really openly discussed. And I'm kind of surprised. I thought I grew up in a culture where these kind of topics were never discussed. I mean, forget about it. But I interviewed over 3,000 women, mid-aged women, primarily perimenopause, menopause, and then they said the same thing, irrespective of the culture. This topic, the whole libido,
Yeah,
the menopause, the perimenopause, is still not openly being discussed all over the world. So you can imagine me growing up, decades back in India, and this topic was never ever discussed. The only thing was there was nothing actually. There was like stay away from the boys. That was the question.
yeah,
That was the you don't want to get in trouble, and you did not know why you want to stay away from the boys. I mean, you didn't even know that part, right? So the culture was very very different,
mm,
and as you know, in India at that time, girls typically when they used to be right around in their 20s, early 20s or mid 20s, they had to be married,
yeah,
right? And I was reading a funny book, talking about Britain in 1700s and 1800s, and the same story was at that time too. The women were chaperoned into
yeah,
kind of a society, and they in the married club, that sort of thing. It
yeah.
was very interesting. So all over the world, it was the same, similar kind of a thinking about women.
It was, and it's funny, isn't it? 'Cause in some ways, a huge amount has changed in the last 200 years. So 200 years ago in the UK, women weren't allowed to show their ankle for fear that men would be overcome with desire and passion. They couldn't, let's say, be unaccompanied walking around. So in 200 years, we've come hopefully to a place where women are accepted as equals of men in most societies, thankfully, and can wear what they want, do what they want, say what they want. But still, as a
Hmm.
society, we don't talk about, I think it's two things: sex and money. We don't
Yeah.
talk about, they're two pretty important things, really. So from and it's a shame because we do have this. I've got an 18-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old son,
Yeah.
and it saddens me to think they don't get to learn about, and it's not necessarily sex, but intimacy, relationships, and
Hmm.
all those things. We don't ever talk about it, and what happens to us as we go through the aging process from when we start having our first, well, women start having their first period, all the way through to perimenopause, menopause, and life afterwards. And
Hmm.
so um, from your background, which was very traditional in your background, then how did you take the huge leap
I know.
from doing that to doing what you're doing today?
Beats me too. It's a very funny question. No, no, seriously. I told you how I was brought up, and then
Yeah,
even then, my personality was always very kind of naive and not very outspoken. Always trying to please others. That's kind of, if you can imagine me, even a decade
yeah,
back. That's how my personality was. But I think it doesn't happen overnight, right? These are sequence of events that happen in every person's life. That
yeah,
one day you say, well, you need to speak up. That's what happened in my life, at least. Right, all these years you kind of trying to be a nice person, trying to always please others. And then during the my perimenopause journey, I was just about 40, 41, something like that. The perimenopause journey started. Again, I'm quiet, going through silently all the issues that I had, and I had quite a few issues, just trying to survive, right? And this whole thing happened, the leap happened actually when I started talking to so many women around the world, and they were all echoing the same message. It didn't matter cultural, ethnic, age, even the economic status, as far as if they're doing making a lot of money, or
Mm.
even we even talk to women, in India who have nothing, like through nonprofits. They echoed the same sentiment, and I realized that this is not just this is more than that. This is really making impact on women's life because they're not able to express themselves, and that's what I have done. I have not been able to express myself all these years, and it has to, like, so somewhere in, inside me, the energy came, what you call the shakti, right?
Mm.
It came inside me, and I said, you know what, I have to do something. And I always wanted to do something that makes an impact, a social impact on people's lives, and I did not know how to do unless you join NGOs and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So this was my way of, okay, opening up, giving it back to the society, giving it back to the women, and bringing them and say, your voice can be heard. You are safe here. It's okay. It's a natural process. There's nothing to be ashamed about. All these things that we don't talk about. And the other thing that also got me was the statistics on UK. In fact, particularly in UK, 60% of the women who are getting divorced are during going through this perimenopause, menopause. It impacts relationships as well, which we're going to talk about.
Mm.
So we don't talk about it, the lack of communication. So I think it was not just one thing that suddenly I said, okay, I am going to be perimenopause, menopause advocate. I think it's all these years of subservient kind of culture, and not, and keeping quiet, and then you realize that, hey, you have only one life to live and you better speak up, otherwise it's too late. You're gone from this planet Earth, right? That
Mm.
was all it was for me.
Mm. It it must be even harder in a way. So obviously, women generally don't necessarily talk about these topics, even though half the population of the planet goes through menopause, perimenopause, and feels certain symptoms, has certain challenges. But they must find it even harder to talk to their partner, their husband about it. And
Yeah.
like you said, in some cases, divorce rates at this particular time get much higher. There's obviously
Mhm.
the husband hopefully is aware that something different is happening, but it is a very physical experience and a very emotional and very mental experience.
Mhm.
How do you find how do you help women to have the conversation with their partners to try and expose them to what's happening?
It's hard. I'm
Mm.
finding, even now women don't talk about these kind of very sensitive topics with their partners,
Mm.
and that's what sometimes causes all these kind of problems in a relationship, because any relationship, it's not only physical, it's also emotional, right? You need to
Yeah.
connect with someone emotionally, and then only you can sustain that relationships, right? So that's really what we are trying to do, is for women to feel safe. See, most of the time,
Yeah.
I can share my experience. Okay,
Mhm.
I'm happy to share my experience.
Go
I
ahead.
personally did not feel safe sharing my personal experience of what I went through. I felt that if I share my experience, even at workplace, I was quiet, going through all this silent struggle, that people might judge me, and people might think of me age discrimination,
Yeah.
or I'm not able to work properly. So I worked very hard. That's the truth, to keep myself in good shape, to taking care of myself. And that during this whole process, because I needed to fit in, right? I,
Yes.
that's what I'm saying. That's how I was brought up. You need to fit in. So what can I do to fit in? Even though you're aging as a person, as a woman, as a man, it doesn't matter. So I worked very hard to take care of myself, and that's how I personally discovered holistic therapies. Whether it's
Mhm.
acupuncture, Ayurveda, diet, lifestyle, exercise, hypnotherapy, all those things, right? And I was able to fix myself. Now, an average woman, if you take an example, she has no clue all these things because imagine having kids at home, teenager, typically
Yeah.
that's the age group we are talking about. And teenagers are can be ruckus at home. And then a woman is going through and the whole house, I mean the family is going through this whole tantrums, and now she's going to keep quiet because she thinks that she needs to sacrifice, right? That's the psychology of, I'm telling you, every woman in the world, it doesn't
Mhm.
matter which culture she belongs to. So I personally, my personal opinion is that men should be educated as well. They should be aware, the partners, and they need to they should step up because if they understand. The problem is we also don't, nobody understands that if their partner is going to go through this journey, then how can how can a guy or a gal can support his partner during this journey? And I think that's where this whole disconnect from the women that I have personally interviewed, and there's so many of them, they talked about the sexual health, the libido going down.
Yeah.
That was a big problem, and that was also an issue for the divorce, one of the issues, and then that leads to something else. All these things kind of bubble up.
Mm.
It's not just one thing, right? A lot of things bubble up, right? So I think in the mid age, it's important for men and women to understand what's happening, how the body is shifting, how the hormones are shifting. And the problem is we women also, we as a society all over the world, I think UK might be an exception. We don't understand this whole perimenopause, menopause journey well. That's the problem. UK is the only country that has been kind of ahead of the game, offering menopause, benefits, to making it a law, if I'm not mistaken, from corporations or companies. They have more than 250 women employed, right? But none of the world, like US, no,
Yeah.
we're just waking up. Literally waking up. So I think it has to come from everywhere, right? It has to come from the community, from workplaces, from
Mm.
medical. That's where we're going to go. And if they
Mm.
don't understand, at least in us as a medical system, perimenopause is not even taught in the medical schools, believe it or not.
Extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah,
It
that's
really
where
is.
we are. So I think UK is, like I said, UK is far ahead.
Mm.
I've talked to a lot of UK experts, and they are definitely 10 years ahead of where US is. But if that's the case, how a mid-aged woman like me, I told you, same thing happened to me. I went to the doctor, and they didn't, first of all, they don't have time.
Yeah.
They barely have time. 5 minutes, they're running like, this is
Yeah.
this. And I'm so scared they're going to mix up my file with someone else. Then typically, okay, take an antidepressant. That's
Yeah.
what I was given. Anxiety. Okay, you are depressed. You're anxiety. And take it. I'm like, I'm perfectly fine. It's just that I'm going through these strange kind of
Yeah.
swings, and which I don't understand. I said, no, 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 take an anxiety pill. I don't want to do that. I don't want to fix myself by taking an anxiety pill. I want you to understand, tell me what the heck is going on with me. But nobody mentioned hormonal fluctuations and perimenopause. If someone had said, this is what you're going through, can you imagine almost a decade of suffering and all kind of strange things that happening to, I mean, I went through whatever, but all the other women as well.
It's. I mean, it saddens me a lot if you're saying that the UK is ahead of lots of the world, because I mean we've. So my wife is sort of middle aged now and going through parts of this, and I think the certainly when she went to the doctors, it was very much okay. Well, you can have hormone replacement therapy, or you can't. It's but what do you want to do? And it
Yeah,
was very little in terms of, well, what does that mean? And I was
yeah,
talking to a friend yesterday, she started her menopause a little while ago, and she's been going through menopause now for 7 years and didn't take HRT, and she's sort of feels like she's coming out of it, but 7 years, wow. Then if you go on to HRT, does that mean you never go through menopause? But there doesn't seem to be, as you say, you have a
yeah.
5 minute appointment and you're given these patches or tablets or whatever else to sort of go
Hmm.
away with without any knowledge, and that upsets me that there's not the information out there unless you really
Hmm.
search for it and you're quite educated and you can go and find somebody and learn it, because it goes to everybody, poor, rich, it goes to everybody in society. So how yeah, what questions should women ask of doctors when they have these feelings that feel unusual, but perhaps some of their friends have been through things, so they're sort of aware of what's happening, but obviously it feels different for every person. So what should women, and perhaps even their partners if they go with them, what should they be asking of doctors?
Yeah, see, the US, like I said, most of the doctors are not even aware of perimenopause. Now, in the last 2, 3 years, this topic has caught a lot of media frenzy, so to speak.
Yeah.
Oprah is talking about it. A lot of
Mhm.
celebrities are talking about it. So now people understand menopause. Even some of the shows I see, they will joke about menopause, right? But I honestly don't know an average OBGYN how much she really knows about
Yeah.
perimenopause. That's the problem. Menopause, everybody knows, right? Menopause is, we all know,
Yeah.
when the menstrual cycles are stopping.
Mhm.
But the perimenopause, the years trending to menopause, that's when the women are going through all these, most of the time, strange symptoms. And that's the time the hormones are going out of balance and out of
Mm.
whack. And that's the time you need to kind of be very careful. So the questions, I personally think, women need to understand what is happening in their hormone fluctuations. Do they need to get tests done? Maybe HRT is an option or not an option. What are the natural options? That's what we are trying to do, is that
Yeah.
before you take HRT, there are a lot of other options that
Mhm.
you can fix these hormonal imbalance through diet, through lifestyle, through supplements, through herbs, through so many things. And we are not saying don't take HRT. Maybe
Mm.
HRT is an option, but a lot of the women I interviewed, they kind of get a little bit scared of injecting anything in their bodies.
Yeah.
God knows what's going to happen after 20 years. And another study would come. Oh, by the way, all the women who take HRT are now
Absolutely. Absolutely.
whatever, right?
Mm.
So now everybody's saying, all the research is saying HRT is safe. Like I said, I've talked to so many of
Amazing.
UK
Mm.
experts. They say HRT is the way to do it. US is still hasn't caught up that only HRT is the only way. They're still trying to figure it out. I'm not a medical doctor and expert, but me personally, I HRT, no HRT. Me personally, I take a lot of holistic things, a lot of natural things to just keep myself fit and keep myself, the loss of hormones. So
Mm.
it's still very confusing. That's the problem. There's not like, if HRT, okay, and what type of HRT then? That's the other
Well,
thing,
this is it. You don't
right?
tend to get an option. You just give them. It's like when you take
Yeah.
antidepressants, they just give you one, and they hope
Hmm.
that one's going to work. If it doesn't, they try
Yeah.
another one.
It's in fact, one of the leading UK doctors, she was sued recently that she administered a higher dose of HRT to few of her patients, and then those patients ended up going endometrial
Oh God.
cancer, some kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So see, that's the scary part. Now,
It
when
is.
when we talk to here, they talk about bioidentical hormones, which is like, they use natural yam and some of these
Mhm.
things to make those, and they are kind of, basically put, like, how do you say it now? They're custom made for you,
Yeah. Yeah.
for each and every person's,
Mhm.
based on the blood test and all that stuff. It's not just a pill that, okay, you put a
Yeah.
patch or take a pill. It's not a regular. They're basically custom made for you.
Mhm.
That's what the pharmacy would do it, based on what how much they need, as a person needs, and what they do the blood test. So that's what they are advocating, at least in US, bioidentical hormones. Now the thing is, those are not FDA approved, the bioidentical
Okay.
hormones, because they're custom, right? They
Yeah.
can't do clinical
Yes,
trials.
of
How
course
can you
not.
do
No,
clinical
they're
trial on
different.
that,
Yeah.
right? How can you do a clinical trial on something that's
Every
custom?
single one differently. Yes.
It has to be standardized. Then they can say, okay, 100 women were given this exact
Mhm.
pill, and this is what happened. And then, so they have a lot of data, a lot of clinical trials on the conventional HRT, but not data at all for the
Mm.
bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. And that's what bioidentical is, the one that they use natural products
Mm.
to compound these in the pharmacies. So that's the disconnect. And we are just trying to literally scratch the surface here and start from here. All right, the self-care,
Yeah,
because it's so complicated, that I think we need a lot of research, we need a lot of understanding, and from that, so we
mm,
thought of starting from where we can wrap our head around is the self-care part, and then slowly going into, okay, this world of HRT, BHRT, which is confusing to everyone.
it is.
Yeah.
And what has the response been to your approach so far?
It's been great. Our app is not out yet. I just want to
Hmm.
share that little piece of information. We are going to launch it in July. We are in June, which is about a month back. But so far, for the last 2 years that we've been working on this particular deeper topic, has been great. A lot of women, they want to use the self care and understand what's going on in their bodies,
Yeah,
and use some natural, remedy. When I use the word natural, they all have evidence behind it. We know that a lot of foods have evidence behind it, a lot of
yes.
supplements, a lot of herbs, a lot of meditation, yoga, all these things, right? They have evidence behind it, research behind it.
Hmm.
So I think what we are advocating is, you can do HRT. We are not doctors, but
Hmm.
you still have to embrace a holistic lifestyle. You still have to open up the issues that you're having. If the loss of libido is one of the symptoms, you still have to open up and get say seek help, and
Yeah,
not go through this rabbit hole into going down, whether it is anxiety, depression, or divorce, or
yeah.
even losing your job. I mean, it's not it can be losing your job too, because you're not able to take care of your
Mm.
symptoms or take care of so many things.
How- it almost feels less important when you're talking about matters around health and wellness, etc. But how do you maintain or evolve intimate relationships with your partner? And I'm not talking about how do you have sex, etc. But how do
Yeah.
you, because mentally you're feeling different, physically you're feeling different, your partner's of an age where they're feeling different. So how do you almost use this to pull you closer together as opposed to push you apart? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, no. And I think a lot of couples go through this whole experience that you're talking about,
Mm.
because think about it. You raised two kids, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of work raising
Yeah,
kids in
absolutely.
today's day and age. It's expensive. That's the thing. It puts a lot of financial burden. Now, that's the truth. It's not like the old times. My grandmother had 5 kids, the other grandmother had 9 kids. They all kind of whatever, that you throw them on the street, and
Yeah.
the older sibling is raising the youngest one,
Yeah.
right? And the older sibling's daughter or kid is the same age as the youngest one, right? They play, so it was like a weird kind of whatever. But nowadays, you have one or two kid, and it's a huge financial burden and a lot of work to raise kids. By the time you reach that level, any couple sometimes is so exhausted.
Yeah.
Exhaustion is the word I feel. You're so exhausted with the financial burden sometimes, with everybody's not like Elon Musk here, and
No. No.
or whatever. We all have to regular jobs, and you're exhausted from working, and the stress, non-stop work, non-stop pressure of financial, non-stop making sure your kids are going to the right school, colleges, and on the right track, and they're not getting into the drugs and all kind
Yeah.
of strange things. In today's day, parenting is very hard. So you imagine a couple who's going through all this, and now let's say finally the kids are off to college,
Mhm.
and you haven't talked to each other. The only thing you're talking about is your kids, or doing some chores, or paying
Yeah.
bills, or doing that. And now suddenly you realize you have nothing in common, because you haven't had the time to do what you started doing when you met sometimes, right? It
Yeah.
happens to a lot of
Absolutely.
couples.
Absolutely.
Now, where do you begin? What do you do? And that's why you see so many data has so many couples split up when the kids go to college, because they suddenly realized And the woman sometimes actually she could be more initiator, because the woman realizes that she is the one who sacrificed more through this journey of staying home, taking care of the kids, taking a back seat, not living her life. And now she deserves to live her life. She deserves to live her life the way she wants to. I've heard this expression from so many women that I interviewed, that she doesn't care anymore. The same person who was nurturing, was
Yeah.
caring so much, when she comes here, she suddenly gets this whole thing. I need to take care of myself. I don't care about anyone else. And I don't care about the relationship if that. So I think that journey of like, so almost 20 years, right? 20, 25 years of
Yeah.
marriage can do that to anyone, when you reach this point. And on
Mhm.
top of that, she's going through this perimenopause, menopause,
I know it's hard. It's
right?
literally the time where the woman's got time for herself. The kids are gone. I can do what I want now, and it's suddenly, oh, but I've got the menopause. It's
Exactly.
literally, why couldn't it wait
Exactly.
20 more years? Or yeah,
Exactly. So you can imagine a person, she feels like, so like, oh my God, I can't deal with anyone at all. If I don't take care of myself, if I don't live my life, then what good is it? So a lot of women end up, unfortunately, sometimes marriages break and sometimes
yeah,
things don't work out, all those things. But you got to understand that the logic behind as to what's happening all these years, and it bubbles up, right? The way I was explaining you my personal story, I
Hmm.
used to be always quiet, not expressing myself, right? So many years. And then suddenly it bubbled up, bubbled, right? It bubbled up to a point. I'm like, I have all these things inside me. I want to do something good, but I'm not saying anything, and that's wrong. So during this journey, somehow the partner or something, like, there has to be regular communication. It's
Hmm.
hard. It's not easy. It's in today's day and age, it's very difficult to keep families together because of all the stresses that we have, all the financial stress, the other
Yeah.
stress, and the so much. I mean, it's very hard.
It is, and I think it's a shame that there's still. Let me put it another way. So, if we have a problem with our car or with our washing machine or with our television, whatever, we'll take it or we'll call somebody that's an expert to come and fix it
Mhm.
or help us with it. There's still this sort of almost reluctance to go and talk to somebody about our relationship because
Yes.
somebody, even just having somebody there that is just mediating. They're not going
Yeah.
to have the answers because the answers are within us. The answers
Yeah.
are within you. They're within me. They're within our partners. The answer's already there, but it's almost going to that physical safe space to have that conversation.
Yeah.
And we don't. We spend less money on ourselves and our relationships than we do on buying the latest television or the latest phone or whatever. We do. We buy a phone that costs £1,000. We say
Yeah.
to somebody, spend £1,000 on your relationship. But what? You're
Yeah.
crazy. And
Are you
it's
going crazy?
I know, but you think after 20 years, it's worth that investment just to have somebody help you have a conversation.
Absolutely, and I think that's a great idea. I think we should do that. When we are offering. The other thing is also the notion of a couple going physically to a place and sitting there, and it's just not really cool sometimes. You know what I mean? People think
I know.
like that, and
Yeah.
they say, "Oh, I don't have a problem. I can fix it myself." But you
Yeah.
don't. It's good to go. It just kind of rehash everything
Mm.
wherever you are, and try to talk it out where we are today. And I
Mhm.
think it doesn't I think it helps to have a third person, and a
I think
stranger who doesn't know you. That's the thing.
yes.
If you go talk to a friend, they know you, they know there's a baggage involved, they know
Yeah.
you, who you've been. But
And
a
they have a
stranger,
bias and they already
yeah,
have their own opinions. Absolutely. Yes. Totally
yeah,
agree.
but a stranger, a qualified stranger, doesn't know you from Adam, and that stranger can take a very kind of a just a unbiased opinion or judgment, or not a
Yeah.
judgment, but unbiased viewpoint, I should
Mhm.
say that,
Mm.
towards a relationship without taking one or the other. And it helps. It helps. I had all kind of issues. I'm telling you, me personally, and I healed because I talked to so many of these women, and I realized That was a therapy for me, believe it or not.
Yeah, no, I can totally
Right?
believe it. When you realize you're not the only person.
Exactly.
You're not the only one. Yeah.
Yeah, so I personally healed myself by talking to so many women. And then I realized, I am perfectly fine now, but what about all the other women who they don't have time to talk to 3,000 women?
No, no.
They're not right. So how can we help them? So I think it really helps to talk it
Mm,
out. You don't want to keep your emotions inside. You want to bring it out. And how do you bring it out without hurting someone else or without hurting your partner? You
mm,
might feel in a certain way that whatever is going on. So I think it's important to kind of keep the communication going.
mhm. And what sort of personal practices or methods do you have to protect your own mental and physical well-being? So you obviously talk to a lot of people. I'm sure you hear
Oh
some of the
yeah.
stories sometimes. How do you look after yourself?
Oh, there's so much. Oh my God, I can go on and on. So just basic mental health. There is so much. Well, we all know about meditation, but there's another one is breath work. Simple breathing
Okay.
techniques
Yeah.
can help on alternate nostril breathing is so
Mhm.
good. It takes literally 1 minute. You breathe in from one nostril, you close, you breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. It helps your parasympathetic system. It has research on it. It literally takes 1 minute. If you don't have time to do meditation, you just go like breathe in, breathe out, right? You'll see calming like that. Simple things. And then there's so many other simple oils, medicated oils that you can
Mhm.
use to calm yourself. I do that every day. Then simple herbal teas, start your day in the morning with some herbal teas and some grounding practices, we simple restorative yoga, even tai chi, things like that, right? Simple meditation, even sound bathing, what we call it
Mhm.
in today's day and age. They have these different sounds that can help you calm down and just listen to those sounds. Breathing techniques, as I said, eating right,
Yeah.
right? Taking out the processed food, taking out the sugar from your diet,
Mm.
and putting in the right kind of nutrients, and that helps with the mental health. The other big thing which people don't understand, the mental health is also associated with your gut health. If you don't bowel your bowel movements, if you don't poop every single day, you're going to have anxiety and mental health issues. So keeping your gut healthy is also
Mhm.
very, very important. Making sure you feed your gut the right kind of prebiotics, probiotics, and all kind of foods that have different taste. That's what the Ayurveda is talking about. Making sure you have every single day you have different tastes, like salt, astringent,
Mhm.
sour, pungent, all kind of things, and bitter taste foods, like what you call it, anything that's bitter, like kale. It helps
Mhm.
with the digestive enzymes, things like that. There's so much you can do for to help yourself with the stress. Not only the meditation, all these things, and of
It's
course,
just it's just investing a little bit of time in ourselves, isn't it?
yeah, it just
Giving ourselves permission to look after ourselves as well as everybody else.
We just have to invest. I mean, even if you invest, I don't know, 10-15 minutes on the grounding exercises, and then you have to get out and exercise or
Mhm.
move. I should say that
Mm.
rather than exercise. Any type of movement, it is a simple walk, nature walk or any other, whatever you prefer, that helps as well. So all these things combined, we call it a lifestyle, right?
We yes, we do.
Right, it's a lifestyle. It's not just one day. You can't
No,
do it one day and expect you'll be fine.
no.
You just need to embrace a lifestyle and keep that going, and it's amazing. If you put wrong thing in your body will flush it out by itself. I mean, it happens to me. If I eat anything wrong, which is my body's not used to,
Mhm.
like I can't even eat a McDonald's. It's
Yeah,
seriously.
your
If
body just refuses it. Yeah.
yeah, it refuses it. It will just bring it out. It's the body knows what you're feeding it, and it will
Mm.
take out the foreign object automatically. It is so beautiful then.
Just what one more question I have to ask you before I let you go is what. So you talked about the app hopefully launching in July. Good
Mhm.
luck with that. I look forward to
Thank you.
seeing that one. And what does the future of Nourish Doc look like? And how would you feel it had been successful? What does success look like?
So for us, the success would be, having women and men both
Hmm.
embracing what we are advocating, a holistic lifestyle, and not falling apart. You know what I mean? And actually, no. To be on the serious side, really helping chronic conditions go down. That would be a success for us
Yeah.
because right now the in US the data is 80% of the women over 55 have one chronic condition, and same is true with men. And that's a lot of that data has been associated with lack of care during the perimenopausal years for women, and we know that the bone mass is going down, and
Hmm.
osteoporosis, dementia, heart health, obesity, diabetes, even cancer, all these start happening to a lot of 80% of the women, right?
Yeah.
So I think if we are successful in having women embrace a holistic lifestyle
Hmm.
with self-care, the chances of that number going down, that would be a huge success, me personally. And also helping couples with in relationships, that would be a huge success as well, you know?
Absolutely. That's fabulous. No, and I think people will have learned a lot from what you've shared. So thank you so much for your time and for what you're doing and for deciding to speak up after so many years being quiet. You've got a lot to say, which is good. Which is what we
Thank you.
need, isn't it? We need people to be shouting. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.